So there we should be back. Back with the racing action. Hopefully this time with a bit smoother video quality. But yeah, we're getting closer to the end of the lap. Dominic Ladler, the first car out on track. One livery we haven't really talked about yet. We will talk about it more during the race. The Iron Names livery, which is of course new to the game. You can obtain it by watching the R1 streams, which are every Friday. So if you want to have this, you just simply connect your RENNSPORT account to your Twitch account and then join us on Friday for the R1 streams. You have to watch 3 hours consecutively, or not consecutively, but cumulative. So quite simple to do, I'd say. And this one is yours to keep. And it does look fantastic. Not quite in its natural habitat here at the Nordschleife, but doesn't make it look any worse compared to the American tracks of Daytona and Road Atlanta.
But it's a fantastic looking livery. I got mine yesterday. And not as many of them as I thought there were going to be today, I've got to admit. I thought we'd have seen more Ryan Dames than we did.
Well, we know that a few more people have the livery. But across the line, Dominic Ladler with an 8.09. Maximilian Dehn immediately topping that with an 8.05. See who will be next across the line. It will be Jaffa Style just behind Enrico Bräuniger, who are a bit further down. Timothy Fritsch with a good lap time, though, an 8.13 for the German. Alizaya going third now. Tim Schroeder will be very interesting, but he's only good enough for 8th. It's a bit surprising. Last few people across the line, Julian Chicot 10th, Dennis Kurzer 9th, the two EWC liveried BMWs in this race today. Vladislav Pironkiewicz will be 11th, and Piotr Zadaiba must have had, I think he had some spins in the later sections of the lap.
Tim Schroeder in Discord is saying that he got a slowdown because he went off track. So he's not happy with his 8th position.
Well, he has plenty of time to make it up in the race. I mean, it's 60 minutes in the Nordschleife. We've seen it countless times. It's not the easiest to do. And yeah, pretty much every driver is prone to mistakes around here. That's what we've learned from last season and also what we've learned in the first race of this season.
That is very true.
So, yeah, don't count anybody out. But it will definitely be interesting up front because it's Porsche, BMW, Mercedes in the top 3.
Yep.
And all of them with plenty of experience on this track and in general as well.
Needs to be a little bit of shuffling by Enrico Bräuniger, and Tim Schroeder's the nearest person to so we can use the magic phrase, but it's 60 minutes, it might happen. We've got time.
I mean, if you think back to one of the first races in the RFL, it was Tim Schroeder in the green hell liveried AMG. Basically also starting, I think it was even 8th, so the same position. And catching up, not quite able to catch up Maximilian Dehn back then. Of course, went on to win the race and the championship, but yeah, he is here to make up spots. And if his lap time was, well, plagued by slowdowns, we know what his pace can be at this track. Will certainly be interesting. And we go racing in the green hell. Season 2, round 2's on the ground. It's a good getaway for Maximilian Dehn, immediately pulling Alizaya alongside Enrico Bräuniger, who will now be under pressure going into turn 1. Alizai on the outside. Timothy Fridge finding his way down the inside to keep fourth for now. We have a spin further down. That's one of the BMWs. And Enrico Bräuniger as well. I think Rondon Hood dropped a bit. Tim Schroeder made up 2 positions. But Rondon Hood immediately sending it down the inside of Timothy Fridge to get up into 5th. Tim Schroeder saying thank you for the invitation, but not quite able to take it here.
Fast style, just clipping the apex of the wall into turn 2 and spinning him round. So he's a few seconds back, but long race to go. Plenty of time to catch up.
Dominic Lalo lost that position to Alizai on the start, of course, but he now has to worry about fast Porsches behind, because Rondon Hood, we know his aggressiveness, we know his pace, but on the other hand, we know Dominic Lala's consistency and, well, ability to defend, especially on this track. If we think back to fights against the likes of Chico, they were a lot of fun to watch. But Timothy Fridge has the same issue with Tim Schroeder in his mirrors.
Yeah, and Tim Schroeder and Ron de Hood going for the Tim Schroeder flash as they come up to the respective opponents there.
It's nice to be able to say the Tim Schroeder flash with actually Tim Schroeder using it. Just feels right.
It is, yeah. It felt like for a long time we had to explain that one.
And now we get it demonstrated. But yeah, with Alizai and Max Dehn at the front, these two will be able to build a bit of a gap now. And the earlier Tim Schroeder and Rondon Hood get past, the earlier they can try attacking them. But yeah, it's always a risk. Oh, and that was, I think, Dominic Ladler in the wall. And indeed, it's heavy damage to the front right.
He made a mistake coming onto the straight there and just clipped the wall. Got onto the grass, clipped the wall. Obviously, Ron de Hood got past him fairly easily because of that, but he's lost a lot of places. And he's going to be suffering some pretty decent front right damage.
And Tim Schroeder, in the meantime, also went past Timothy Fridge. Must be around Flugplatz where he went past. It's a very atypical mistake for Dominic Ladler, especially so early into the race. But now it unleashes Rondon Hood and Tim Schroeder to attack for the front positions. And Enrico Bräuniger is also still in it, because he's up into 6th and chasing down Timothy Fridge for 5th. There's some damage to the front right though, so he also had some scrambles. Rondon Hood is very fast though, being able to catch up with Alizai like this. You don't really catch up to Alizai like this usually, just put it this way. But you can see how aggressive he is. He's using a lot of curb. It has bitten him before, to put it that way, but... Oh, and Dominic Ladler in the wall again. In Metzgesfeld. So maybe more damage to that BMW than it looked like before.
Yeah, getting catapulted right back to P last from being on the front row. Well, he was front row of the grid, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's definitely looking off pace right now.
I think it's something that we haven't seen in all of the last season, basically, where he, of course, went home with the championship trophy in the end, but yeah, it's a very different picture here today.
Yeah, Dominic is currently driving as right hand down as you can get. His steering wheel is basically 90 degrees to the right, so he's not having a fun time with a lot of sectors of Nordschleife left to go.
It's a long and painful one if you have issues this early. Oh, and Rondon Hood, too much curb in Mutko and heavy hit into the wall. if this didn't do too much damage to his suspension, it's a very nasty way to have an impact. Is this now the chance for Tim Schroeder? It will probably be, but what is the damage on the Porsche? We can see a bit of bodywork damage, but what does the suspension look like? And this we will only find out in a bit. And it seems to let him struggle a bit more. He's still continuing to push. And he's going wide again into Ho8 across the grass and another hit. This time on the left hand side and even more damage.
Good recovery though. You managed to keep it facing the right way and get it back on track.
Yeah, indeed, but yeah, this early into the race, if the damage is too much, he might not be able to make it through. And of course, you only get points for the championship if you make it through in the end. And I don't think that car is really drivable at the moment.
Not at that kind of pace, no. I think he needs to maybe slow it down and try and fix it up at the end of the lap and see what he can make of it.
It's definitely costing Tim Schroeder a lot of time here.
Yeah, for sure. Holding him up kind of unnecessarily at the minute, really, because he's blatantly going to get past. You might as well let him pass in a safe fashion.
Yeah, and you did really... We've seen them coming together in the RCL races. And even though I don't think there's really bad blood between the two of them, they both know they are very aggressive in what they do, but... Yeah, if you do this too much, I think one could end up being a bit more upset than the other. It's allowing Timothy Fritsch to close in very nicely though, so... Oh, and one again, just losing it through Galgenkopf, going onto the straight. Should be now an easy pass for Tim Schroeder though.
Yeah, for sure. He's probably going to have a bit more top-end speed with him having a nice fixed-up car.
Timothy Fritsch will have a nice slingshot here though. Should be just in reach to get passed by Antonius Bucher. Going to the inside. Oh, and there's contact between the two Porsches and Rondon Hood. Managing to keep it out of the wall.
It's an impressive save.
While Julian Checo moves up into 6th, getting past the Aston Martin of Enrico Bräuninger. But Rondon Hood stays out.
Yeah, he's opting not to pit this lap. Fix his car, has decided it's doing okay.
It's 8 laps here at the Nordschleife in a 1-hour race with those cars. Is that doable with this car?
I mean, he seems to think so. But he was very down on top-end speed on Dottinger compared to the cars in front of him, so I'm expecting him to lose a few more places before this race is over. Just based on the top speed deficit he's got.
He's definitely keeping up in terms of driving aggression. It doesn't really seem to help him here right now. And he has Julian Checo and Enrico Bräuninger to worry about. They both had very good runs last season. They both know how to get past on the Nordschleife as well, and especially Julian Checo has shown that he has the aggression to match Rondon Hood, so even though Enrico Bräuninger might be a bit more easy in that sense for Uran, Julian Checo will most likely not be. And you would have probably hoped that Enrico Bräuninger was able to stay in front of Checo after the Döttinger Höhe.
And Rondon Hood, it has a pending drive-through penalty. So if he's looking to serve that, then he definitely won't be trying to fix his car, because that would be losing an awful lot of time.
definitely is an interesting spot. And also, we have the 13 being stationary in Hohenrhein. It's just standing there on the outside of the
check
track.
on them. They're at least off track.
Yeah. Piotr Zadybel and Dominik Lala both in the pits, so they are still running. Just currently repairing their car. Vladislav Pironkovic, who had a very, very nice debut last season in the 2-hour final race. It was just a bit wide here, but keeps it on the road in the end. He's running fine in 10th. You know, he has a lot of fans, so it's definitely worth giving him some time on the screen.
And of course, it's another second person. I think there's only 2 of them in the Iron Dames livery, so it's always worth looking at.
Indeed. Every car from P2 to P9 being in an Iron Dames sandwich. Very big one, but it is what. But he was really impressive last season, doing a 2-hour race without many issues. He had one incident early in the race, but kept his nose clean, repaired the car, and just kept on with it. That was very impressive. And it's super nice to see him back here today as well.
Yeah, we seem to be getting a few more drivers here in the RNL, which is always good to see. It's obviously a pretty massive track, so it benefits from having more drivers. The more drivers, the better. It's generally a good rule of thumb.
The more drivers, the
it's
more
good
fun.
to see him. Yeah, and it's good to see him coming back.
We have a pack of 3 forming here. Enrico Bräuniger, Julian Chicot, and Ron Den Hood, all within about 1.5 seconds. This is for 4th. Tim Schweider was able to catch back up to Ali Zahe a little bit after being behind Ron for a long time. And this is only lap 2 of the race. Oh, and Julian Chicot spun behind Ron and Hood through Bergwerk.
Yeah, they did well to avoid that one, and he managed to get turned around pretty safely there. Well done, Julian.
And Timothy Fritsch has a lot of damage to the front left of his car. So Jafar Style, one of the rookies in this race. We haven't really talked about him, but definitely somebody who made his way up. But he's running in 6th. Car's looking pretty mint. And Timothy Fritsch is losing a lot of... It's a very, very weird race today already. It doesn't mean it's bad in any form. For us, it's a lot of entertainment. But having 2 of the most, or not, if not the most consistent drivers we know of doing mistakes. Piotr Zadybel as well, he struggled. And I mean, Zadybel, Ladler, and Fritsch are probably the last people we would have guessed to make mistakes, because they usually always get their points by being consistent, by just keeping it on track, while the faster drivers sometimes tend to put it into the wall. Today it seems to be a bit the other way around, though.
Do we ever have a normal Nordschleife race, though?
Well, more normal Nordschleife races than Road Atlanta race, that's for sure, as Enrico Bräuniger moved past Ron and Hood into 4th. But yeah, speaking about Road Atlanta, I will pay you for that transition later on. Next week on Saturday, I talked about it before, but we will have the final race of RCL Season 5. And it will take place in Road Atlanta. It was community voted. We have never really had a, let's say, normal race around the asphalt at Road Atlanta. But it was
No,
always
that's for
very
sure.
entertaining, yeah, of course. So, with a championship on the line, Rohan den Hurt and Maximilian Dehn being the main contenders, it could get very heated, it could get very interesting. 45-minute races. So, if you watch R1 on Friday, then don't miss RCL on Saturday. Could be very interesting.
I've made it no secret that I love Road Atlanta. I think it's a great racing circuit, and I love watching races there. But I just want to quash any rumours that it was in any way fixed by me. It was entirely voted for by the community. I did not make 100 Smurf accounts.
You paid someone else to do it.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Going with the CIA answer there. But Jafar Style now pretty much looking to get into P5 because when now lose the car out of the final turn and finally goes into the pits. Was just too much damage he picked up in that first lap. And yeah, it doesn't really surprise me. He had some very, very nasty impacts. He tried to keep it on track, but with that amount of damage, just impossible. But if he keeps going in this race, he might still be able to pick up some points for the championship. Because we haven't really taken a look at it today. So we might as well do it now. This is how the championship
A
currently
few
looks
more
like.
cars coming into the pits right now.
Yeah. Oh, right. It's Julian Chicot, I think it is, and Timothy Fritsch. So with two cars already down the road with Ladler and Zedible, one might not fall back too much here.
He does still have a drive-through to serve, though.
I would argue a drive from the Nordschleife isn't, well, yeah, it hurts. It isn't as bad as, for example, Daytona. You lose about 20, 22 seconds, but on the Nordschleife, it's not that hard to gain that back with the pace that Rohan has. He's
But
super
now he's
quick.
just got speeding in the pit lane and got another drive-through.
Well, he was maybe a bit too fast then. But yeah, he's now 8th. He has a bit of a gap to the cars behind. Maybe he can salvage a top 10 out of this. But who gained from this a lot is, of course, Radoslav Pionkiewicz, because he's now into 7th. And
Yeah,
if he doesn't
for
pick
sure.
any damage or penalties, might be a very good finish here for him. Because if you take a look at the standings, which are on screen for a long time now, but we didn't get to talk about it, Dominic Ladler, our championship leader, he's currently in, I think, 11th. With a very unusual race. Meanwhile, Enrico Bräuninger and Julian Chicot was in the pits and is also 10th, but Enrico Bräuninger is running 4th. So for him, this could be a big points race. Cesco Monero unfortunately isn't here today, but Rohan den Hurt is. We've been talking excessively about him, and Dennis Kurzer, he's running in 6th. So also for him, a big chance to catch up some points.
And of course, Maximilian Dean got a bit of catching up to do because he wasn't here in the first round, but he's doing a pretty good job of it right now.
Yeah, and since we have 13 drivers here for this race instead of the 9 from the last race, this one will give him a few more points. If you are not aware of how the point system in this series works, we basically have a hybrid system of an adaptive point system and a fixed point system we use for our championship, which you can all read about in our Discord. So if you haven't yet joined the Discord, go into the sporting channels and look for the Nordschleife League, or just ask around. Some people will be kind enough to basically bring you there. But yeah, the top 6 will get a fixed point score. And on top of that, every driver will get points based on their position relative to the others. So Maximilian Dehn with 13 cars here today, he will get 13 points for beating 12 cars. Or being the 13th highest driver, however you want to call it, basically. And that get another point score on top. You also have point score for qualifying. So there are a couple of bonus points. It basically ensures that if you have more drivers or less drivers, the races are worth equal relative to their difficulty. But yeah, you would get, if we just go through it, he had pole position, that is another 3 points, so he had 16 plus 8 for the fixed points, 24. And, well, if he finishes this race, which Maximilian Dehn usually does, there's also another point for finishing the race and one for the fastest lap. It's a theoretical maximum of 26 points here today. And Maximilian Dehn is also on a good way to get it, because his fastest lap time is an 8:05. The closest to match that is in P2, Alizaya with an 8:09.
Yeah, Alizaya only 3 laps into the race, but he hasn't done a valid one yet, so he's effectively not scoring on the fastest lap board.
Exactly, because this man is actually the fastest, second fastest as well, with an 8:08.1. But that's still 3 seconds off. I mean, 3 seconds on the Nordschleife, not too much, but Maximilian Dehn 8:05 is very strong and will be hard to beat, even for somebody like Tim Schroeder.
Tim Schroeder's got some motivation, though, because Alizaya is currently 2.5 seconds up the road from him, so he's definitely got something to keep him pushing, and he'll be wanting to try and close that gap up a little bit more so he can get the big draft down Dottinger.
Yeah, he's eager to close the game. He's about close to 2 seconds faster per lap at the moment. One thing that satisfies me a lot is Alizaya's last lap time, though, an 8:09.999. Just visually pleasing there.
That's the graphic designer and you coming out there.
Perhaps. Which has picked up some damage on the front right. Doesn't seem to be too bad. If it's just bodywork, not suspension, it slows you down a bit, but it doesn't make the car undrivable. And he has a bit of a gap to the car behind Ron and Hurt, who of course has 2 drive-throughs to serve, so realistically the next car on the road is Timothy Fritsch.
It's a bit, with it being the Nordschleife and laps being so long, it's a bit difficult to kind of get an idea of the pace people are making right now and whether anyone is catching up or not without constantly looking at the gaps. Dominic Ladler has got a very big deficit to make up to catch up with Julian Sokoda.
Jafar Style is getting closer and closer to the Aston Martin of Enrico Bräuninger. He's, as it seems, currently the fastest BMW on track as well. And he's definitely putting his name out there.
Yeah, he's setting a very respectable time right now. His last lap and his fastest lap were 8:16s, which is, like I said, fairly respectable. If you look at the times of like Maximilian Dehn, you might think it's slow, but it's by no means a slow lap.
I mean, you should always consider Maximilian Dehn is the highest rated driver. And
Yes.
has a lot of esports background as well. So most of the competitive people you will encounter will not quite be able to match an 8:16. If you look at some other lap times, Enrico Bräuninger is about 3 seconds slower than that. And also in qualifying, we've seen some low 8:10s, but that was in qualifying as well. It's always a bit different in race, and Jafar Style gets a bit of a choke on the straight. Not a big one, it's not quite close enough. Slipstream range for the Dottinger is about 7 to 8/10 on entry.
I'm sure they're just going around in an 8:07.6, which was a pretty respectable time, but Maximilian Dehn there just stamping his authority on the situation with an 8:03.5.
If you know Maximilian Dehn, he's not leaving anything on the track, really.
No.
One in Hood got past Raslav Pionkiewicz, but it's likely that he will have to come into the pits to serve a drive-through. Oh. Well, it's not likely he has to, but yeah. It's not been a good start for him this race, but it's still salvageable. If you take a look who else is out there, he might realistically lose 2 positions. But if you can keep it on track for now, this could also transfer back to a good position in the end. At least about an 8th or 9th place. And Jaffa Style less than a second away from Enrico Brueninger going through the Grand Prix course through Schumacher S.
Brown coming in to serve his first of his drive-throughs.
Has to be careful to not pick up another one though.
He does, yes. And is that Timothy Fritsch coming into the pits as well? Yeah, it is.
Curious to why he is in. I can't see him having a drive-through.
He's getting some repairs done right now.
Well, this means Rodden and Hood, even after serving another drive-through next lap, will still be out in front.
Yeah, it's played pretty well for Rodden the Hood there. And it'll also bring Timothy Fritsch quite a lot closer to Dominic Ladler.
Jaffa Style even closer than last time around.
Timothy Fritsch got dropped off the Ajax there, but was very slow setting off. And Dominic Ladler is already at the end of the start-finish straight. So that's put him behind.
Yeah, of course, it was important for Dominic Ladler to salvage what's possible. What I'm very curious about right now, how aggressive will Jaffa Style be against Enrico Brueninger? We know Enrico Brueninger is a bit more conservative most of the time. So if he sends it down the inside, it's very unlikely that Enrico Brueninger will just turn in and say, this is my corner.
Yeah. Enrico is a fairly polite driver. So he doesn't want to risk it on a meaningless contact.
But it's always a bit hard to judge against someone who you haven't raced. Of course, you have to always form a bit of a baseline, basically, how you want to defend from another driver or attack another driver you don't know.
That's very true, yeah. Jaffa Style is a bit of a wild card in this race, not one we've really seen before. So he's definitely got good pace, staying in 5th place like he is right now. Now we just get to find out what his racecraft is like.
Well, I mean, so far I wouldn't say it's too bad, seeing how his car is in clean shape. So he hasn't collected contacts, he hasn't put it into the wall, and so far he's definitely having a much better race than some of our established veterans. Tim Schroeder about 1.8 seconds back from Ali Zaya, so that will still take a while for him to get close. Both about 15 to 16 seconds back from Maximilian Dehn.
Enrico going defensive there.
First time not sending it into the mood curve. I knew some drivers who would have done that perhaps, but He is definitely showing himself. He's getting close to that rear bumper of the Aston Martin. He's not afraid, and I like to see that.
Backing off a little bit for the carousel, though. Not traditionally a place you try for an overtake.
Two radically different lines as well, these two take. I mean, of course, Enrico will be a bit more on the defensive side right now, but he is not afraid of just following his line behind the Aston Martin Jeffer style. Yes.
Oh,
yeah, right, sorry.
Being able to kind of take your own line when there's another car directly in front of you can be really tricky. It's easy to kind of tunnel vision into just doing what the car in front's doing. So it's good to see that he's clearly comfortable with his own line and knows how to take it even with another car being right that close in his view.
Meanwhile, Tim Schreider and Ali Zahir have talked about slipstreaming distance before. He had not the best exit. Could still be enough because he lost a bit of speed, and that means he has a longer time in the slipstream now behind Ali Zahir. And now you can see him really getting into the toe, catching up.
Is he going to go for it now, or is he going to set himself up for a turn one move?
I think he's going to go for it now.
Go for it. He's got plenty of overspeed, but it puts him on the outside.
Yeah, side by side, but he clears him before.
I think Ali Zahir backed off a little bit there rather than risking it.
I wonder if Ali's now trying to go for the switchback basically into turn one.
That's true. He's in a fairly good position for it.
I think he's a bit too far away, and his exit wasn't the best.
No. He was starting to close up a little bit towards the end there, but I think he'd used up a lot of the straight.
So with that, Tim Schreider up into second, and Breuninger was far enough away to cover Jaffa Style this time on the Döttinger Höhe.
Tim Schreider last lap had the purple sector of the race in sector 2 as well. Or Radoslav Pionkovic there showing his distaste for the Eindames livery by smashing it up on both corners.
I think this isn't his biggest problem now because we can see his car crabbing. There has to be some damage either on the rear left or rear right for the car to crab like this. I would suspect rear left. And this is borderline undrivable now. He has to really be careful to get it back into the pits. But yeah, unfortunate at this stage in the race, but the race isn't over.
Yep, we've got 25 minutes left of this race. It's over halfway through. We haven't talked too much about Maximilian Dean because he is 18 seconds clear at the front, so he's slowed down his pace a little bit. He's not pumping out 803s like he was last lap.
Well, it's the curse and the blessing of being so far up in front, right? He's dominant and everybody knows it, but you don't really see him. And Ali's having his look around the outside after Sabine Schmitzkurve. He does have some, a lot of confidence, let's put it that way.
Both of these guys actually have done a lot of racing in the AMG, so they both know the car really, really well. But the advantage there is that they know what their opponent's car is like.
He's even sending it across the grass. They lost some time, but yeah, it could have been worse.
It definitely could have been. It looked very sketchy for a second there.
bold and aggressive. That's
Sure.
how you could describe the pairing of Tim Schroeder and Halizar here.
True.
Jaroslav not
Jaroslav,
repairing
yeah.
the car.
That was a wise move, I think, there. Jafar Style not getting past Enrico Breininger just yet, but he's holding in there. He's not given up, that's for sure.
I think he knows that he has time. I think he knows that he doesn't have to stress it. And we've seen in this race to what stressing can lead if you overspeed, if you just push the car over its limits too early, especially. And he doesn't really have much in front, 30 seconds to the two AMGs of Schroeder and Zai. He's not really going to catch up this in anytime soon. And to the car behind, that's Dennis Kurzer, it's 45 seconds as well. And they both have a better pace than Dennis Kurzer, so he doesn't have to worry about anything. He can just concentrate of getting past Enrico Breininger, and if it's on the last lap.
Yeah, he's in no rush to get past. It won't make much of it. It won't make any difference to the overall standings.
Oh, there's a fight for P10, Timothy Fritsch and Radoslav Pionkiewicz.
Some Porsche on Porsche action.
These two beautiful, these two livers look beautiful together. Not gonna lie, I like it.
They do, yeah.
Is this a custom league on RENNSPORT? It is, well, an official league, which is well hosted by us at RENNSPORT, the RENNSPORT Nordschleife, but we also have custom leagues made by the community. So if you want to check that out, join the Discord, and there you have, well, a list of leagues to choose from, basically. I think the next one's going a bit wide there. Bjorn's just going a bit wide there. But we had some season finales last week. The M2 World Challenge, made by Bruno Weberes, had his final race. The FTRL, made by Warren Den Hur, had his final race. So these are on a short break, but I think soon we will have new leagues coming. One actually organized by the man in the Iron Names car, Radoslav Pionkiewicz, because he wanted to have a P-Cup livery. Not P-Cup livery, a P-Cup league. Maybe also livery, but he wanted to have a P-Cup lead. And Jaffa Style again showing himself, but not going for it yet. But yeah.
You don't have to be good to join one of our leagues, that's for sure. I mean, the main thing is that are you safe and will you not smash into other drivers? I think as long as you don't crash into everyone, it's always worth taking part.
Exactly, and
I would say that because I'm slow.
I'm not that slow, but it's the only way you really can learn. And what I really like about our communities here in RENNSPORT is that they are ready to help you out. So we've had so many drivers. I mean, Ali Zahi is currently third in this race. He's one of the fastest drivers in this race, and he joined, I think it was in RCL season 3, 2 or 3, one of those two. And he wasn't competitive off the grid. He wasn't there coming in flames like Jaffa Style is today. He was just finishing the race. Oh, and Jaffa Style with a loose moment here, keeping it very clean. But it's not about jumping in and being fast, but improving over time. I think Timothy Fritsch is also a great example. Might not have the best race today, but he is an RCL winner. Shouldn't forget that. And he's been in the top 3 in championships for quite some time. So there's plenty of time to learn and to improve. And at some time you might be able to challenge Maximilian Dehn. So, but you can only start by driving, not worrying about being not good enough.
With regard to cars and tracks, Nordschleife is the only track you have to pay for. All the other tracks are free. So as long as you're not taking part in the RNL, you can race in pretty much any of our leagues. You don't have to own the car. You just have to be able to drive one. We have a free GT3 every week in the rotation. There have been some M2 leagues running, which is obviously the free car. Radislav Pionkovic, like we said before, he's running a Porsche Cup League, which it's not free very often, so you would have to buy it for that league, I'd say, just to be on the safe side. But as far as tracks are concerned, unless it's the RNL, like we're watching today, then it's free.
I mean, theoretically, we will have an RC, which are community events, which are a bit more specialized, tomorrow. We will go to, we talked about it before, but
Yes.
Road Atlanta in the TCRs, and currently the Hyundai Elantra TCR is free to use. So you can just jump in, join. It's 2 15-minute races, so sprint races are always a good way to start out. All information as usual on the Discord and also on the socials. Oh, I'm very confident on the brakes here, Jaffa style. I'm impressed so far. Sorry, I'm keeping going back to it, but I'm just impressed.
How dare you talk about the race?
I mean, we had some people coming in and being good off the bat. Yeah, of course. And it is a nice talking point. It's nice to have a mix of that. We have people who just developed over time. I mean, the aforementioned Timothy Fridge and Alizai. We had people like Tim Schroeder, who just came in and immediately took the fight to Remco Major, who's also one of the fastest drivers in RENNSPORT. And one of our moderators, to be fair. But it's just impressive to see and to discover new names, both up and down the grid. I mean, with Vladislav Pionkovic, for example, he's developed already. He at the start struggled a bit to adapt and so on, but right now he had some very good races, and I'm looking forward to see more, especially in the FDRL, if I think about it.
But where you find all our leagues, they're all completely public to join. They're in the official contests list on in-game, so you can just join them. A couple of them have some restrictions on rating or safety rating or RENNSPORT rating, but most of them are completely open for anyone to join in.
Yeah, and you can also find all the information in the RENNSPORT app. In general, the RENNSPORT app is a good hub to just get information about any race. And if you go to contests, where you can of course then see what is currently going on in the game, you can click on leagues and see which leagues are currently running, which ones have finished. You can see past results, for example, but you can also see which ones are starting. So if you want to participate in a full league, you can also just participate in partial race, so you don't have to be part of the whole league. For example, the next RNL race will be in 2 weeks with the GT4s. So if you missed the first race, that's no issue. So you can just join round 3 in the GT4s, just have a good time, collect some points maybe. And
yeah, it's worth getting some experience.
It's very worth getting some experience, that's true. And so on and so forth. So like, you are very free in what you want to join. If you just want to join select rounds, you can do that. If you want to fight for a championship from start to finish, you go to the upcoming tab and you will see the Porsche Cup Sprint Series, which of course is then organized by Vladislav Pionkovic, and the RENNSPORT Community League Season 6 starting. But Jaffa Style now side by side with Enrico Bräuninger going into Schwedenkreuz. Can he clear the Aston Martin before the Left-Hand King? And yes, he does, and it was a beautiful move there by Jaffa Style to go up into 4th position past the very dark Aston Martin.
He's been very, very patient before he made that move, hasn't he?
Yeah. And he timed it perfectly at the perfect one. Enrico Bräuninger is definitely showing that he can go the pace. But what a move it was by Jaffa Style. And up front it's also not decided yet, because Ali Zahir has found pace and is pushing Tim Schroeder along the track. The 2 AMGs for 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah, they've not given up the fight yet. Ali Zahir still would like that 2nd spot on the podium, thank you very much.
I mean, last week in Daytona, in the RCL, it was Ali Zahir who profited of Tim Schroeder colliding with Rondon Hurd and Dominic Lalla to take 2nd. But even that wasn't without fights, because Julian Chicot was really giving him a run for his money there. Thinking back, Daytona was wild, so like...
Yeah, that's true. When you think close finishes, Daytona is always pretty high on the list. For obvious drafting reasons.
That is very true. Even though it wasn't necessarily about close finishes, but just the chaos ensuing all across the track.
Yeah.
Also, thanks to everybody who joined us on this channel in recent weeks. We've been really growing a lot, which is very nice to see, and we really appreciate that. So, big thanks to everyone out there joining us for the streams every week. It's a lot of support for us as well, and we are very happy to do it. Aliza is doing a bit of a drift there out of the carousel.
Yeah, he's dropped back a little bit now, but he's got a little bit of time to catch back up again before it gets to the big drafting zones.
Both of them have very aggressive driving styles. I
mean,
they
do, yeah.
We've talked about aggression in terms of racing, like Tim Schroeder and Ronan Hood being very aggressive in the wheel-to-wheel combat, but in terms of driving style, they differ then again. But Tim Schroeder and Alizai both share the certain base of aggressiveness with the car. They really throw the car through the turns. Where, for example, Enrico Bräuninger is somebody who just lets the car flow through the turn. Same goes for Timothy Fritsch, for example. Different driving styles is something that I think is a bit more unique to our races, to our community races, compared to R1. Because every driver here is very different in how they drive. They're not constrained to a certain driving style to be quick.
Do you think it's kind of a necessity of driving the AMG, maybe? Because they are both AMG drivers, and they both, like you say, they are both very aggressive with how they drive. Is it maybe just the way you get pace out of the AMG, unless you're an esports alien?
I think it's a good point, because, of course, every car is conceptually different. And the AMG is designed to be available to gentleman drivers as well as to be pushed to its limits by the pros. So, yeah, you really feel on Tim Schroeder getting loose, on Schwenkratz, I always say, the Galgenkopf, and losing the position and losing a lot of pace. Down to third it is again. He only has 2 laps to catch up, and he will lose a lot of time down the Döttinger Höhe.
That was an unfortunate one, just trying to carry as much speed as possible onto the Döttinger over there, and gamble didn't quite pay off. But some of the people out of Discord community might be happy, because he surely cut a lot of grass there.
That's very true. I mean, it's not the first Mercedes you see being used as a lawnmower, but that was costly. That was very costly and a very easy mistake to make. But they can see how much putting pressure on a different driver is doing to them. Meanwhile, Jaffa Style has built a considerable gap to Enrico Bräuninger. He won't be under threat by Slipstream here, which is very good for him. But yeah, to answer your question, or do you have anything to add before I keep rambling for hours?
Carry
on. Yeah, the AMG being conceptually done to be able to drive by gentlemen as well as by the pros. I think you also see it in real life. You have drivers who are very easy with the car, but if you take the likes of Mauro Engel and Drew Gunon, they are also very aggressive with the car. And I think that's a bit of the key with the car, basically. You can just take it easy, which you will also, I think, see in long run races. When we go to the 2.4 hours of Nordschleife, I think when we see a few more AMGs, we will also see some being driven a bit more calmly. But what the AMG allows you to do, if you got the feel for it, is to really keep it on the razor edge for a long time. If you compare it, for example, to the Audi and Porsche, the Audi being very nervous in how it drives, which, for example, a driver like me likes a lot, but there are people who really struggle with it and find it quite unpredictable. With the Porsche, it's always predictable, but it also keeps doing that oversteer moment, understeer, oversteer, of course, being big points in the Porsche. But the AMG is more consistent across a wider range of turns. So to put it shortly, basically, yes, I think to be really fast with it, you should be very aggressive, but to be just normal fast with it, you don't have to.
Yeah, the AMG does have a fairly good history in the Pro-Am classes in GT3 racing in the real world. So it's definitely fairly composed when you treat it that way. But I think maybe to get the most out of it, you have to start kind of abusing it a little bit. Whereas the Audi being mid-engine, it never seemed to do quite as well in the Pro-Am categories. But the pros, who can obviously push it and maintain the balance properly with the mid-engine as the weight moves around, led to it getting some really good results in the pro categories.
Yeah, and it shows by the success all of the cars have in different categories. I think all the manufacturers have something to show for basically nowadays. And we've talked about it, I think, last time we went to the Nordschleife. The Audi is very successful around here. I mean, they had, I think, 6 wins at the 24-hour Nürburgring, or 7, over a span of 15 years, while other manufacturers have that across 60 years at times. They've been really doing super well here. And I think that's also down to the Audi being a very specialist kind of car. But if you look at other classes and other races, you see the AMGs and BMWs doing a lot better, particularly the BMW M6, because what they changed with the M4 is basically they went away from the gentleman's car. Of course, you still see it sometimes in those environments, let's say. But the M4 is a lot more aggressive than the M6 was. And before the 2020 AMG, so the AMG Evo, came around, a lot of those gentleman drivers tipped over to the M6. If you think about the teams like Walkenhorst, they've ran M6s for a long time. So that really shifted towards them, and it seems to do them very well, because Mercedes is still very, very good in GT racing. I'm going a bit wide here through Nordschleife, but keeps it on track.
I've raced a Walkenhorst M6 a few times in endurance events. It was always a good one. But man, that car is big.
I mean, when was the last time a BMW wasn't big? I think that's been quite a while.
One kind of common thing between the AMG and the M4, though, is they don't have many winglets on them, little carbon bits, to give a bit more downforce. And I know definitely with the M4, that was a conscious decision by them to not have aero pieces that could get snapped off. And I'd be surprised if it wasn't the same with the AMG.
Yeah, I mean, when you consider joining GT3, you of course are aware of the BOP and parity between the cars. Parity is a bit different than BOP, of course, but in the end, every advantage you gain, you kind of lose due to the BOP, so you find other ways, and having the cars being more robust is definitely helpful in an endurance environment. If you take a look at the Porsche, for example, this is a little flap at the front, or the splitter, basically.
Yeah. And it's got some little winglets on the side just to kind of create a bit more downforce. And if you have a bit of a front incident, those things can easily snap off, and then the balance of your car can kind of get ruined.
I mean, having grown up in the early 2010s DTM era, late 2000s DTM era, it's... How shall I put it? The canards up front, you rarely see them finish a race, basically. You always had them flying off earlier or later, and those DTM cars had a lot more downforce than the GT3s had at the time.
Those DTMs were crazy machines.
They were really crazy, yeah. But they could still drive, but it would be noticeable at times. What would be really noticeable is if one of the cars lost their hood, which didn't happen all too often, but it happened quite a few times. If I think about, for example, Timo Glock, I think it was at Hockenheim in the BMW M4 DTM back then. But yeah, with the GT3s, it's a lot about being robust, and that's also, for example, what the DTM did with the 2017 regulations, I think it was. They made a car a lot more robust, a lot less wingless, and as a result of it, side-by-side contact didn't really influence the aero of the car. And it led to arguably one of the best seasons in DTM history. 2017, definitely worth a watch.
Oh,
was I going wide?
oh. Managing to keep it when I was got to carry the speed up onto the Dottinger without letting Tim Schroeder get too close.
Was correct.
I talked about the wrong driver then.
We have a lot of Tims, that's sometimes hard to keep track of.
He's a fair way back, but this was about as far back when Tim Schroeder made his last overtaking move. There is going to be one lap to go after this. Maximilian Dean just crossing the line with 3 minutes to go.
Yeah, maybe you want to wait for the final Dottinger now. I mean, you won't be close enough to do a move now. But yeah, going into turn 1, does he want to pass Ali Zaya? Does he want to just keep it behind and this time on track?
Is Tim Schroeder physically capable of keeping it behind someone?
Oh, that's a good question. We will see in about 8 minutes if he kept it behind or not. He's definitely showing himself, going to the outside. Ali Zaya going a bit deep. Maybe trying to go for the undercut here.
Oh.
Oh, not quite. The Tim Schroeder flash, definitely.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And again, just showing himself, keeping the nose in. Is he not trying to pressure Ali Zaya into a mistake? But Ali Zaya is ice cold in the car, I can tell you that. Having been in voice chat with him for some races. Getting that man to stress is very hard.
Yeah, he's got confidence. We'll put it that way. He's confident in his own abilities.
Definitely when you put him into an AMG. But so is Tim Schroeder usually. So the few mistakes we did see from him, and I mean with Ali Zaya in the mirror, you can excuse that very well. But he is very confident in what he can do as well. And we've seen that countless times in recent times since he returned to RENNSPORT. We've seen it at Spa, we've seen it at Daytona. And it's less than half a second between the two of them going onto the Nordschleife for the final time.
Talk about Maximilian Dean for a second, seeing as he is leading by nearly 30 seconds right now. His fastest lap was an 8:03.6. He's backed off pretty much since then. He's been doing fairly standard 8:06s, which is still faster than the next fastest lap out there.
Yeah, Maximilian Dean in the league on his own here. Not lifting through Flugplatz. I can tell you it's possible. I mean, you've just seen it's possible, but it does take a lot of confidence to do that.
I think neither of these drivers lack confidence, do they?
No, they really don't. They are both so... I'm not sure how to put it really, because of course they have experience, they have confidence, they have everything you need. But they also have this certain something with the car itself that you really don't have with, like, you could give them any car, of course, but in the AMG, they both just feel at home, it seems like. And they really make you notice that.
It is quite an intimidating car to have behind you as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean...
There's something kind of... I don't know what it is. There's something aggressive about it when you see it behind you. Especially when it's been driven by one of these guys who does drive it in aggressive fashion.
I mean, it's low, it's wide, it's growling. I don't know if you would compare it to an animal in nature. I wouldn't really want to encounter it in 2 wheels into the grass there, Tim Schroeder. Both giving it everything. But I can assure you they are enjoying this, and they are enjoying this a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
It's definitely races like these that make it worth.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad there's been Tim Schroeder and Ali Zahir in this race. They've definitely given us something to talk about.
And especially with the AMGs, it's nice. Oh, Ali Zahir getting very loose there. And now Tim Schroeder is right there in slipstream up the hills through Kesselchen. Will he do a move into Mood Cover? He is one of the drivers where I would not be surprised we see a move into Mood Cover. Across
smashing that inside curb.
He's having a look.
Oh, Ali had taken a lot of grass.
Okay, he's backing out. That would have... I mean, yes, they might have made it, but it would have been very tight and very nasty. But it's just nice to see 2 AMGs going at it as well. I mean, what we usually see a lot, because they have a lot of fan favorites, and I can understand why, but we see a lot of Porsches, we see a lot of BMWs, but it's always nice to see some Audis like in Daytona last week. It's nice to see the AMGs like today, and it would be nice to see more Astons in the future as well.
The Aston is a gorgeous car, and it sounds fantastic. The sound team did a brilliant job on the Aston Martin.
They really did. But maybe Enrico Morning is using it more in the future, by what I've seen this week.
Yeah, with our AMG in-game, it's probably got one of the oldest sound designs, if you can say that, of any of the cars we have in-game right now, but that might be changing in the future.
I'm sure it will be changing in the future. If you want a sound standard, you should take a look at the Porsche, which is basically the first and so far, alongside the Vantage, only GT3. This Piotr Zatai will just somehow manage to get out of the way of the two. But
he exit stage left. He wanted nothing to do with that battle.
He really didn't. But I mean, that's how we know Piotr Zatai as well. But the Porsche and the Vantage are basically the new sound design that we have, where we are going from, and I would presume the AMG, the Audi, and the BMW will be brought up to standard as well in the future. And of course, if you want to join the racing action, you can join any race after this. There will be another broadcasted race tomorrow, but there's also currently the Dave Gaming series, so if you want to race in 8 minutes, there's a 40-minute race on one of 4 European circuits, handpicked by Dave Gaming, one of our current content creators. But let's have a look at this now in Slipstream. Tim Schroeder on the Dirtinger, he kept it behind throughout the lap, which answers our question. But can he get past Ali Zahir? He's closing the gap, and the Slipstream effect will only get bigger from here. Maximilian Den has finished the race. He's come in first. So congratulations to Maximilian. Sorry we have missed it a bit, but this battle is just too exciting. And I think he's just too far back, or will he risk it? Will he throw his car down the inside into Hohenrhein? And no, he doesn't. He stays behind. Can he get a better
rare
exit?
backing off moment by Tim Schroeder.
And it's Alizai in front of Tim Schroeder, but what a fight it was. There's Maximilian Dehn, our race winner. What a fight it has been. Like, truly.
That was a fantastic, some fantastic racing from Ali and Tim Schroeder there. Thanks for both of those for putting on a brilliant show for us.
Jaffa style. I mean, I've been rambling a lot about it a lot in this live stream, but what a debut for him, coming in 4th with this grid. We are talking about one of the highest rated grids we could have at the moment. Lots of gold 4 drivers, some platinum drivers in there, and he's coming in 4th.
And completely clean, not a scratch on that car.
Indeed. Totally redeemed himself, and Enrico Bräuninger, he will come in 5th. He will be very happy with that, I think, especially changing to, for him, very new car. So the Aston Martin.
It's not quite so clean.
Not so clean anymore, but still very respectable 5th. And Dennis Kurzer, we haven't talked about him, I think, for a second in this live stream, have we?
I don't think we have, no. I think he's been, as Dennis Kurzer tends to be, completely off the radar. Coming through to 6th, which is a really good result.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Dennis Kurzer struggle, we've seen Dennis Kurzer having good races, but today he put it together. Came in, or will come in 6th, and that is very well deserved. He's a long-time member of the community as well, so it's always nice to see him do well. He's been very under the radar, of course, in this race, but that doesn't always have to be a bad thing, so sometimes just a calm drive to collect some good points is all you want. And this is definitely, well, what he did today. And Rondon Hood, I'm not sure what he will feel about this race, to be honest.
I'm really fairly sure what he'll feel about this race, and it won't be repeatable on our broadcast. But just to add insult to his injury, only driver without a valid lap.
Well, to be honest, I'm not sure if he cares about that. He's been struggling at this track so much. He has so good pace, but he just struggled to keep it on track. And today, yeah, he also made a mistake. Yeah, also put the car into the wall. But in the end, 7th place with 2 drive-throughs. And it's not like the cars behind were uncompetitive. They also just made mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the championship was concerned, we were looking at the table before. Julian Sicko, Dominic Ladler, they're both behind him. So it's not a complete loss for his, as far as the overall league is concerned.
I think he's happy with it. By the way, he's swerving into the finish. Julian Sicko with the left-hand side indicator on. Not quite sure why, but... Oh, he's not changing between the two of them. Yeah, Julian Sicko, Dominic Ladler 8th and 9th after their starts to the races, which were far from optimal. They will just bag some points here, I think.
Yeah.
Same goes for Timothy Fritsch. Just not quite their race today.
And bringing up the back of the field, Piotr Zadybal, who's already crossed the line, and Radoslav Pionkovic. Fan favourite, Radoslav Pionkovic.
Very much so. I mean, he's a very likable guy, so I gotta admit it. But yeah, Piotr Zadybal also super atypical race for him. I'm sure we will see him having a better time next week in Road Atlanta. But yeah, Radoslav Pionkovic, I'm sure he will finish in 11th here. But again, it's a finish.
Yep, finishing any race at Nordschleife in itself is an achievement.
Yes. This is the season, because we had it asked in chat. We are currently in round 2, and in 2 weeks we will continue with the GT4s at the Nordschleife. In total we will have 6 races, with the last one being a 2.4 hour special. So if you want more info on that, join the Discord. If you want to join the races, you can also check the RENNSPORT app or in-game for more info on the RENNSPORT Nordschleife League. And if you fancy different tracks than the Nordschleife, you could also join...
What?
You could also join the community leagues, which run every other week. So next week, Saturday, we talked about it, about Atlanta. And there we will also announce Season 6. So 6 other tracks coming up. And if you don't fancy that, we also have the community event tomorrow at Road Atlanta with TCRs, 2 15-minute races. And if you fancy the livery you see right here on screen, the Iron Names livery, make sure to check out our R1 streams on Friday. Oh, I'm just losing it there, but not too much of an issue there. Check out
No one was watching, it was fine.
Exactly. But check out the R1 streams on Fridays, watch 3 hours of the stream and unlock this livery. To use it in game, you will have to own the Porsche, but if you don't own it, you still have the livery for later on. So yeah, and in general, I mean, we will go to, I think, isn't it Daytona next in the R1? I will just have a quick check, but I think it should be Daytona.
I think it's Daytona. I know there is a Daytona.
Yeah, of course, the last race will be on Jeddah and Daytona. It's just now getting the order of it right. Very well prepared here, of course. But indeed, it will be... No, it will be Jeddah, actually. So, next week...
Oh, yes, they were talking about on the cast.
Oh, yeah, I remember. So, next Friday we will go to Jeddah with groups A and D. It will be very interesting on Jeddah. I mean, it's a high-speed city circuit, basically. So yeah,
it's a very fun track. You might have seen it for the M1 from the F1 races, but it's a very different race on GT3s. It's a fun track in a GT3 car.
And you can experience it basically in RENNSPORT as well if you just join some of the races out there. So yeah, this has been the racing action for today. Any final words or verdicts from you, Tim? I think it has been fantastic.
It was a great race with Ali and Tim Schroeder. I've mind blank there for a second. For sure, it was really great to watch them going at it in pretty much every corner. Amazing race by Max Dean, which you wouldn't expect any less from him.
No, not really. I mean, it has been so many storylines in this race. It hasn't been what I expected it to be, but yeah, I mean, you said it, the AMG duels, Max Dean at the front being dominant as ever, but on the other hand, he wasn't gapping that hugely. So while he was very respectable in that sense, it wasn't crazy how much he pulled away. So people are getting closer.
Yeah.
You had the fight between Bräuniger and Style for P4. And, I mean, huge props go out to Style there. What a debut for him.
Yeah, it was a very good debut from Jafar Style. Hopefully see him in more races in the future.
Those races in the future will start tomorrow at 8 p.m. Until then, have a great time and goodbye.
Goodbye.